You know, it's been a long time since we have created a water mixable portrait painting, so that's what we're going to do today. Here is an image of the painting that will be created in today's episode. So for the colors, I'm using titanium white, mixing white, raw umber, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, yellow ochre, Naples yellow, ultramarine blue, ivory black. And if you would like to know exactly what materials I'm using and or purchase the same type of materials, I have links to my to the affiliate Amazon. I can't even speak today. I have links in the description box down below that you can check out if you would like to purchase the same type of materials that I am using. Now here is what I'm going to use for my drawing. This is the thinner, the water mixable thinner that they sell with the Winsor Newton Artisan brand. So I'm gonna keep it in a little container, though it will be off camera. It's in a little container there. Now what I'm gonna do is take the autofocus off so it doesn't continually try to correct itself while I'm drawing. So for my drawing color, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna use raw umber. So I'm using raw umber and I'm thinning it out with the artisan thinner. And the reason that I'm using this artisan thinner instead of water is just for the sake of experimentation. You know me, I like to experiment a lot, so that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start off with a very simple umber sketch. So I have to plan out where I want to place the head. So let's see, somewhere up here. Oh wait, before I even get too far along, here's an image of the Anders Zorn painting that we are going to be creating today. I will not have the photo reference linked in the description box down below, but I did give you the title of the painting. You should be able to find it really simply. And I will admit I did use the Google Arts and Culture site to find this image. So with a very quick and simple Google search, you should be able to find the painting without too much difficulty. And again, the reason that I'm not linking it is because YouTube tends to try to demonetize me if I put external links. At least that's what I think it is. I don't know. Ever since I stopped putting those links, I get demonetized, or they try to demonetize me less. So anyway, enough said with that. Now the top of the head is going to be here. Well, should I say the top of the hat? So I'm thinking of my composition. All right. So I'm thinking of where the hat is going to be cropped. I guess the corner of the hat is going to be here. I don't know, the back side of the face is going to be here. I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but of course this video is paint along style, so please feel free to draw or paint along with me. Alright, so I'm thinking that that's where I want the corner of the face to fit. Now notice how I'm taking it one step at a time, simple straight lines and angles. No need to complicate the drawing. Right now, the main concern really is the composition. And before I get even further along in the video, always remember, this is a master study, okay? It's a paint-along style master study. Not intended to be a master copy. Alright, so that I'm pretty sure that's okay for my basic composition. Now I just need to get into more specifics. So the back side of the ear probably will fit somewhere over there. At first I thought that I would do Zorn palette version of a Anders Zorn painting. I know you're probably thinking, well, why not? That would have made more sense. But I don't know, I feel like I've done enough Zorn palette videos. I mean, if you really want me to, I can do another, but I tend to think of all palettes that I use, color palettes that is, as kind of an extension of the Zorn palette. And if you're new to this channel and you've never heard of the Zorn palette is essentially your primary red, whether it be cadmium red or if you're going to get all fancy and use vermilion. Either way, it's just your red, white, yellow ochre, black. So I think of all other portrait palettes as kind of an extension of the Zorn palette. So again, I'm moving kind of slowly today. I don't know, it's just one of those days. Just chill. Backside of the ear. The hat, I guess, is gonna go somewhere over here. So in order to try to fit in the hat, I did make the head a little bit small, but that's okay. And I'm working on a acrylic toned 9x12 cotton canvas. So I toned it with acrylic just to get this neutral gray. Okay, one step at a time. So now let's look at the corner of the eye socket. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to look at the perspective a little bit. It looks like we're looking up at him a little bit. So remember, with perspective, I tend to think of the the eyes, the axes of the eyes in relation to the ear. So this is just telling me that I have to lower the ear a little bit. It's probably a little drawing mistake. There we go. Now with the water mixables, I think it's a good idea to, accept that they are oil paints. They act just like, traditional oil paints. The only difference really is that in terms of the handleability, I think that the colors, at least with the brands that I'm using a combination of just the Winsor Artisan and the I think I have maybe like one tube of Holbein here, but the major difference really, I think, is within the color, the intensity of the colors. They're not as bright, so not as highly pigmented, I think, as traditional oil paints. But again, you can counter that by just using more paint, which is what we're going to do later on. So this is going to tell me right here the center line of the head. It's pretty much a standard 3/4. Okay, so now the ear, of course, let's just shade a little bit, just for the sake of drawing. Now, if you're painting along with me, every time that I sit back or stand back, it is an open invitation for you to sit back or stand back along with me. So right now I'm just going to sit back. So the hat's going to come over here. Just taking my time. Okay. Alright. So now the bottom of the nose, we're going to suppose it fits over here. Now with the start of any portrait, okay, I tend to consider the main triangle. So the main triangle is the two eyes. Okay, the two eyes and the nose. They form a triangle. One point here, another there, another there. That I consider the main triangle. So I tend to emphasize this and then kind of work everything around that. Let's draw in the shadow. Taking my time today. Now for the concavity of the eye socket. I want to say that he looks a little upset in this pose. I don't know, what do you think? It's kind of like this, what are you looking at kind of stare that I get. I don't know. Do you feel the same about this pose? Alright, so one eye is going to be here. The other eye there. Thinking of the perspective. Angle is like this a little bit. Looking at the shape of the shadow with a little more clarity. And this is purely just to map out the large planes that we'll get into a little bit later on. And always remember, straight lines and angles. And later on, the two-dimensional thinking of using straight lines and angles will transition into three-dimensional thinking when we get into planes. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a stab at the eye. Remember, not too much detail. Gonna keep the eye pretty much just a brush stroke or two. Try to practice as much as you can, saying as much as you can with as little as you can. Alright, so now let's start to sketch in this little, is this even a shadow? It's dark around here. I'm going to assume it's a shadow. Now this is how we're going to get that kind of what are you looking at kind of look into the pose. It's a little bit darker over here. And darker over here. Go ahead and put in this shadow. So I try to take the Umber sketch as far as I can. Try to say as much as I can in terms of the proportion, perspective, all of that good stuff. So now we can start to indicate just a few marks. The mouth. And Zorn, just like Mr. Sargent, is really good at teaching you how to simplify. Now, I'm not entirely sure, I think this is my first Zorn master study, but I have seen a lot of his paintings online, so I can say, at least from that, Zorn is a really good resource to learn how to simplify So that's what I'm trying to do with the mouth a little bit here. So this, I should have said it before, so this is just another dry brush, and I'm just using it to kind of erase and push the paint around a little bit. Now we're pushing this down. So it's also kind of acting as an eraser for us. I'm noticing that there's quite a lot of glare here. I'm actually going to get up and adjust my lighting. I have no idea if that even did anything. What I did was I moved my light fixture a little bit further to the left. So a little tip when you're painting, or if you're just trying to photograph your artwork, try to keep your light at an angle and not straight onto the canvas. Just a little tip there for that. So for portrait, there's something I refer to as the awkward stage. And the awkward stage just means, you know, we just get a little bit uneasy with an unfinished face, and that usually happens, I think, within the first, like, I don't know, 30 minutes in a painting, or 15 minutes maybe. And it's something you just work through. Portrait in particular can be difficult for that reason, just because we're not used to looking at, you know, unfinished faces. So now we're going to sketch in a little bit of a shadow for the ear. And that is my cat making noise in the background, trying to get into the studio. But anyway, so now we put in just a little shape there for the ear. So I do think it's glaring a little bit more than I'm used to. I don't know if it could be the texture of the canvas. I don't know. Now we're just going to push the ear down a little bit. So as you notice, I tend to get kind of quiet, especially when I'm a little bit more focused. So just know at times I will be very quiet, which you might actually prefer. Let's go ahead and put in that dark accent for the lip, following the center line. Just a little dark accent down here. Now push the chin down a tiny bit. So I'm going to relate just visually the distance here for the chin, and just relate it to the nose, I guess. I usually, go from the hairline to the eyebrows, from the eyebrows to the nose, and from the nose to the chin, just relating those distances to one another. But we kind of don't have the hairline, so I can only kind of just gauge from here to here in relation to from here to here. So I think that the nose isn't, I don't know, I think it needs to go a little higher up. And I'm not measuring, I'm not taking out a caliper and measuring, just using my eye. Putting a little bit more thinner. Could be the thinner that's glaring too. Don't know. Last week I used a matte medium in the darks, which I probably should have used this time, but I just kind of forgot. A bit of a dark shape there. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the angle here. So this points to here. Gonna take some of the paint off the brush, just so I don't do that. I didn't want to smear the paint too much. Whoops. This is a really striking pose too. I don't know if you get that out of this. It's almost like Zorn is telling me, what are you looking at? So you think you can paint a portrait, huh? That's what he's saying to me. I don't know. I'm kind of losing my mind today. Okay. I think I'm going to make a little note of this. I don't know if it's a feather or something on his hat, but just so I don't forget. This has to go down a little bit more. As a consequence, this has to go down too. I think that I'm showing too much. I don't know, just optically over here. Let's push that in a little bit more. Just kind of sketching a little bit of a dark tone here, just so I can get an idea of this whole space. Do I want to throw in some of the articles for the clothing? I don't know. A few brush strokes for now. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so I think that that's all right for now for the the Umber sketch. Of course, after I say that, I'm still adjusting the eye. Okay, so I think that's okay for the Umber sketch for now. So what I'm going to do is get a different brush, and now I'm going to start to take a stab at the flesh tones. No medium, just paint. So I'm mixing the cadmium red, yellow ochre, Naples yellow. So I'm going to look for a plane. So pick a plane, any plane. I don't know. Let's just say this one. Side plane of the nose. Now we're going to make it a little bit lighter, so a little more Naples yellow. Now with a smaller brush, the mixing white, Naples yellow. This is reminding me of Wednesday's video. I hope you liked Wednesday's video. It was my first paint mixing only video. I really wanted to clarify, some of the, mysteries involved in creating flesh tones. It's something that you kind of get used to after a while. Throwing a little more burnt sienna into here. And yeah, I'm talking about mixing flesh tones. It becomes intuitive, okay, at a certain point. I'm someone that has, several years experience trying to talk and paint at the same time, so I'm going to relate this to my experience with these videos once I find my brush. Where's my brush? Okay, so it took me a while to learn how to talk and paint at the same time. Of course, I'm still learning. I still need to get better at that, but after a while, you get used to it. It just becomes second nature, like anything that you practice every day. And I'm just telling you, if you struggle with flesh tone mixtures, just keep at it, keep painting, keep pushing, and eventually you won't even think about it. You'll be reaching for colors automatically. It becomes automatic at a certain point. Alright, so now I'm going to switch back to the large brush, a little bit more of the mixing white, Naples yellow, no medium. So there's a lighter plane over there, light plane over here. Now as far as the materials, since I am using water mixables, I think the way to get the most out of these paints really is to use little to no medium, and try not to use too much water. Although, there's nothing wrong with it. That I've used the water before to thin out the paint. I titled a video "Just Water," right? The only thing I've noticed is I noticed this also with traditional oil paints. You just get a little more luminosity to your colors when you don't use medium in the start. Now I do use medium in my own studio work. I do, to oil out, in between layers. Remember, oiling out just means applying medium to an area that kind of sinks in or starts to just fade. It's kind of like a retouch varnish. In any case, so now I'm thinking of the values, okay? I'm looking at these planes. This is actually much more complex than it looks. Now Zorn did keep, his brush strokes quite visible, which is a good thing. is helping me see how to create these planes. I did forget sap green on here. I usually use sap green. Oh wait, I lost it. Never mind. The tube of paint, the sap green, I have no idea where it is. Where I keep my paints, I try to separate the water mixables from the traditional just so I don't get them confused. But you can use traditional and water mixable together. It's just oil paint. The only difference is the water mixable can be cleaned with water. But if you do mix the traditional with the water mixable, I would probably use the odorless mineral spirits to clean the brush. Though a little bit of, traditional oil paint shouldn't do too much in terms of changing the nature of the paint. So a little more Naples yellow, titanium white. I usually tend to go for the darks first in the Umber sketch, and then after that I kind of just go right for the middle tones and the lightest light planes. It's just been my strategy these days. A lighter light over there. A little bit more of the cadmium red. So now with a separate brush, where's my brush? Okay, so with a separate brush I'm going to mix up black and white. So black and white and some flesh tone. So I just use black and white and some flesh tone to get the color of the sclera. I think it actually is a little warmer. Strange. Okay, I think that's... Yep. So the sclera, again, is just the light of the eye. Remember that the light of the eye, the white of the eye, is not white. It's usually a half tone, which is what we are seeing there. Now I'm going to get a smaller brush. No medium. Trying to get that highlight on the upper eyelid. Now I don't know what this is. There's a very kind of red, this is what I mean, the red on his cheek. Now usually you want to push the the areas around the cheeks a little bit more pink, but that's a little more red than I'm used to seeing, but it's there, so we're going to try to emulate what Zorn did. Some more of the mixing white. Let's throw in a little more Naples yellow. So it's going to get a little cooler. Again, I don't have my sap green. So what I'm going to do, since I don't have sap green, what am I going to do? Yellow ochre, ultramarine blue. This is what happens when you're lazy and you can't find your sap green. You just mix yellow ochre, ultramarine. So there's my half-fast sap green. I'm just gonna put this on the side over here. Hopefully it's in the shot. I think it's a little bit off camera. There. Okay, so I'm gonna use that as my sap green. So it's gonna get a little more greenish, which is of course why I mixed up that green for this greenish area here. It's going to get a little darker there, so let's add a little more of the raw umber. And if you're wondering why I'm using raw umber instead of what I usually use, burnt umber, I just ran out of burnt umber with the water mixable, and I ran out of burnt umber and I had raw umber, so I used it. That's all. Okay, so let's get a little more of a pinkish color. A little more of the alizarin. Oh, you know what? Alizarin and burnt sienna sounds like a nice combo. It's a nice color. Okay, so it's getting a little bit darker now. As we move on over there, I'm going to cool it down with some of the sap, which is not sap, remember, it's just yellow ochre and ultramarine. This is actually what I tend to consider a composite mixture, meaning a mixture consisting of colors that have already been mixed, which you would be doing a lot of. You know, if this were the Zorn palette, the Zorn limited palette. That glare is really bothering me. Hope it's not bothering you too much. How about I try to mix a dark to combat this glare? So this is a larger brush, raw umber, ultra raw umber. And I'm applying the brush stroke in this direction, but it's still not doing anything. I'm trying to find a direction to minimize the glare, but it's just not going away. What about downwards? Not going away. Oh dear. The glare is just not good today. Sorry about that. But now that I have this color, might as well just fill in the dark of the hat. Gonna make one more attempt to adjust my lighting. I hope that's a little better. I actually had to turn off my LED lights. I think they were causing a lot of glare. So let's just put in the dark for the hat. Okay, alright. So now it's a different brush. Where's my brush? Okay. Alright, so this is similar to the one that I used for the flesh tone. Same type of brush, just a different brush. So, burnt sienna, raw umber, please don't glare on me. Okay, looks like the paint is behaving. we're putting in this warm, earthy colored shadow. Earth, like, you know, planet Earth. Earthy color. Cast shadow. So the shadow here for the ear is very similar in terms of the color to this shadow. So I'm going to just use the same brush, a little more burnt sienna. Some of the cadmium red. Should be a little more red, so a little more cadmium red. I should talk a little more about water mixable since I'm using water mixable. At a certain point, you know, after practicing with water mixable so much, you kind of don't notice that you're using water mixable oil paints, especially if you're working at it like this with no medium, no extra medium. It handles very similar. It has less of that gooey feeling that I was describing before about water mixables, the gooiness to them. In particular, I guess with the Windsor and Newton brand, which is something I like. I like for the paint to feel more natural, like traditional oil paints, which at this point, I mean, it's almost the same thing. So in case you're wondering if you can, you know, transition from traditional to water mixable, certainly you can. So the smaller brush, now we're going to put in the shape for the earlobe. Just know that these are the same thing, okay? This is regular, you know, it's just oil paint, okay? So if you're going to be selling your paintings or something like that, you don't have to title it anything differently, I don't believe. You know, you don't have to differentiate between water mixable oil and regular oil. Same thing, just cleans differently. It's easier to clean if you ask me. I'm really loving the burnt sienna today. So a little more light. Switched brushes there. Helix, anti-helix going on back there. That's just the anatomy that I was talking about there. So a little more burnt sienna. A little bit of our green that we mixed up earlier. I do think I might have to push the shadow down a little bit. A little more burnt sienna. And while we have this shadow color, I'm going to actually break a little bit of a rule. So I'm going to put the reflected lights in with the same brush. And by breaking a rule, I just mean I usually don't go right for the reflected lights, especially this early in the painting, but they're kind of necessary, I think, to the look or the mood of this painting, if you ask me. So a little bit more reflected light. It's okay if we just obliterated the eye a little bit there. Can always paint it back in. So since this color is very similar to this one, again, I'm just going to use the same brush. A little bit of our green color there. Ultra. It's a pretty neat mustache. If I could grow a mustache, I'd probably have one like that. Alright, so I'm going to look for another brush. Any old brush that is the right size. So the alizarin, a little bit of burnt sienna. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the dark, a little bit of a dark shape there for the lip. Is the lip too far down? I don't know, probably. I think it'll be okay though. Same brush. Raw umber. Very careful to apply the brush strokes in an angle-like direction, or in this direction, should I say. Gonna lighten the value a little bit. Alright, so with the same brush, I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow ochre, cadmium red, Naples yellow. Okay, so I kind of misplaced that brush stroke. Oh well. A little more raw umber, alizarin. Alright, so I'm going to switch back to the larger flesh tone brush. A little bit more Naples yellow. A plane for the chin. Now again, if you're new to this channel, this is probably the best, I think, example of a plane. See this, how it's a chop? Sound effects included. The angle of the plane with respect to the light will determine the lightness of that plane. The closer it is to perpendicular to the light source, like this probably is, the lighter it will be. And that's all. more titanium white, Naples yellow, and again, if you would like to watch me paint in real time, like real time, live, again, I have that option available to my Patreon members in the live stream tier. I'm working on it currently. It's just me trying to figure out technology and stuff like that, and still painting every day. So if you are a patron in the live stream tier, just know that I'm working on it. The first one should be this month. So a little bit more of a darker tone over here. Okay, alright, so now it's going to start to get a little bit darker and warmer. Now I'm not 100% sure how Anders Zorn painted. I'm pretty sure he probably works something similar to this. Oh my gosh, does anyone remember the Dos Equis commercial? I'm thinking of something like that. I don't usually paint portraits, but when I do, I use loaded brush strokes. So I'm thinking of Zorn. I don't know, the pose. I mean, the way he's looking at me. He's got his character, definitely. A little bit of a darker tone there. Darker over here. So that's going to be the side plane of the cheekbone, zygomatic bone going over there, turning down. Angle of the mandible. Lighter plane over here. Now, you have to think about the directionality of the planes. Okay, so this way, down, a little bit over, but not as much as this, and then down again. Rather than just trying to copy a value, you know, think about the directionality of the plane. Okay, same brush. I'm going to, what am I going to do? I just blanked out there for a second. A little more of the titanium white, Naples yellow. Putting in those highlights. Now we're going to start to re-examine the lights again. Let's mix over here. Alright, so now that we're adding more values, I'm going to adjust light sensitivity on my camera. So I adjusted the ISO, the light sensitivity on the camera. So hopefully you can pick up more of these lights as I place them. I'm going to sit back. Okay. I'm going to sit back again. So I'm missing something. I can't quite figure it out yet. Maybe it's this. So I'm looking for my brush. Okay, I found it. Alright, so let's see. A little more of the burnt sienna. Ultra. There. I have no idea if that's correct, but we'll just say it is for now. Alright, so now if I can find a different brush. Yep, okay, so I found a different brush. Maybe this is too large. I guess so, this one. So I'm gonna mix the black and white. Mixing white. Ivory black, and let's just keep it simple. Just this. I'm gonna leave space for the feather or whatever that is. Now I'm gonna stand back and squint. Squinting helps you see value, okay? Blur your eyes to see color relationships, and squint to gauge value. And I just think that this needs to get darker. Gonna sit back again. A little bit darker. And while we have this, let's just put a little bit of light on the top of the hat. Okay, alright, so a little bit more ivory black. That's too dark. That's about right. Okay, so now just put in this shape here. Maybe a little more than we need. We'll cut back into it later. Okay, so now how about different brush, Let's get some of that color. For the feathers, or whatever these things are. I think they're feathers. Cool. Alright, so now I'm going to return to the flesh tones. The nose. Need a little bit more light on the nose. Titanium white. Naples yellow. A little bit more pink. Let's throw in some of the alizarin crimson. And we have a little bit more of the light for the nose. And let's look for a different brush. Again, no medium. If my hand is shaky, it's because I had a little coffee. A little bit more pink, orangey pink. Let's make a little composite mixture here. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to stand back again, or sit back. Okay, so I think that what I'm going to do now is with a smaller brush, adjust the wing of the nose a little bit. A little more light on the wing of the nose. Now with a different brush, where's my brush? Okay, looking for a different brush. Okay, I'll just use this, whatever. So this brush, the one I use for the lips, it's kind of similar in color anyway. This little shape over here, don't really know what this is about. This is the side of the wing of the nose, but I don't know why it's quite so red. Okay, alright, with the same brush, we're going to go down in value, a little bit darker. I'm going to adjust this. Okay, switching brushes again, more burnt sienna, green, alright, so a little darker, so we're gonna just mix these two colors. And we're gonna go ahead and get the other eye back. Okay, so now with that large brush that I had discarded earlier, I now have a use for it. So titanium white, I don't know, a little bit of raw umber, just to make sure we don't have you know, something that's too light. We're going to go ahead and put this shape in. Going to use the tone of the canvas to help me out a little bit with these values. So by applying less pressure, I have less bright areas. And again, no medium. A little more raw umber. Okay, so now over here, less pressure will make it darker, more pressure will make it lighter. okay. Though I think I should have a little bit of a hue change. So burnt sienna, some of this. There we go, just to have a little bit of a darker plane here. Okay, alright, so now I have to swap out a battery. Alright, I swapped out a brush, and actually I had to stand up and put the battery in the charger, but anyway, after standing back I noticed I played down the red a little bit, so we're putting a little more of the alizarin, cadmium red, so we're going to put that reddish tone back. Then after that we're going to put that highlight, or make that highlight a little brighter. There we go. A really bright highlight. Then under here, so putting in the light here made me notice how much more room I have to go in terms of the values on the face. So I'm going to be adjusting. I'm going to be keying all of this based off of this. And by keying, I mean just, okay, suppose now I put this light, right? Now, after standing back, I see, wow, I can go so much lighter with this and still not, you know, get too close to that tone. So that's what I mean. To adjust my microphone a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and key the light. So we have quite a lot of room to go here without getting too light, so and now we're gonna momentarily return back to the mustache once I get all these lights. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to look for a different brush. How about we use the drawing brush? Some of the green that we mixed up earlier. So a little bit more of the green that we mixed up. And the color really, you know, isn't that important, I think, for what we're trying to do here with the mustache. Color, remember, color can be very, very subjective. That's the reason why you have, you know, arguments over, is that shirt blue? Is that shirt gray? Someone tells you the shirt is gray, someone else tells you the shirt is blue. But what matters is it's a shirt. That's all. In this case, the shirt is analogous to the value, so we want the value to be right. It's a little bit darker over here. So I'm going to switch to the light brush. I'm going to soften that edge a little bit. I think that I can lighten this a little more, however. So let's get a different brush. I'll just use all the brushes I can, since cleaning them will be super easy with water mixable paint. So I think that the lip, I can get a little bit lighter. See how we keyed from here to here? Now I'm going to key this to this. Gotta get those values to be just right. And of course, if you are still listening and listening very closely, I'm now going to put my secret saying, once I can think of it. I just had it. I forgot. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, so secret saying, it kind of relates to what we're doing here. Secret saying, hashtag value is everything. Hashtag value is everything. So go ahead and comment down in the comments section. Hashtag value is everything. Because it kind of is, to get the, you know, the three-dimensionality of these planes. I could paint that highlight purple if I wanted to. As long as it's the right value, that's what will convey the form. But of course, color is important too. It's just, you know, we're all trying to improve on our, you know, the believability of our paintings. So if you're trying to make the painting more realistic, more naturalistic, value is really what you should be focusing on. Nope. Darker, darker. A little less chromatic. Meaning I just want the pink for the lips not to be, you know, too saturated. So I'm kind of dulling it down. All right, now I'm going to insert the question of the day. this isn't going to be super serious. It's just something I'm very, very curious about. In the comments section down below, question of the day: what do you think Zorn is thinking about? So I have to say what I think Zorn is thinking about. Let's take some thought. So okay, so what I think Zorn is thinking about is he's pondering, what if I could paint a portrait with only 4 colors? I know, so cliche, right? The Zorn palette. I wonder if he even thought about it though, creating the Zorn palette. Of course, as you know, I'm not really an art historian, so if you have some historical context on the Zorn palette, how it came to be named after Anders Zorn and all that, go ahead and comment down below. Okay, so I think I can push even the light, so I can key the light on the earlobe. So it's a clean and dry synthetic. Just getting a super soft edge here. I'm also going to soften over here. And again, I still think I can push the red a little bit here. I'm being kind of on the safe side with that. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to start to paint in the background. Just going to use raw umber and whatever was on the brush. Yellow ochre. So the background is a little bit warmer, so let's throw in some of the burnt sienna. So since it's some filling in the background, you can either just skip to when the background is already painted in, or you can stick around and listen to me. So usually when it's time to paint the background, I usually consider that story time. So I guess it's time for story as I fill in this background color. This isn't really much of a story. I guess it's just an update on just me and my work and stuff. I'm currently working on a series, well, not like a series, but a set of paintings that I hopefully will exhibit somewhere if I can get my work in some kind of gallery, which, as we all know, is not the easiest thing to do. So I have multiple paintings that I'm working on. I have a figure painting, I have a large portrait, a large single person portrait, and I have a large double portrait. And again, you can see all of these paintings on Instagram if you would like to see the work that I'm talking about. And then I have plans for a second figure, a larger figure. And at the same time, I'm going to be working on another portrait very soon. So right now it's currently Wednesday for me. Of course, you're seeing this on Saturday. So at the Hood Portrait group where I go to, paint with awesome people, I usually will do like a larger studio painting there too. That's where I got the photo reference for the large double portrait. I think actually I did the study for that. One of the studies for that when I was still doing daily videos. Although, as I recall, that was the episode where where I showed you that I messed up. I had a bad camera angle. But yeah, that's what's going on in the studio in my life. And I'm also teaching a class if you are interested. It is in Howard County, Maryland. Oh dear, I just realized. So since today is Wednesday, I uploaded that video literally a couple hours ago. Hopefully it did well by now. But in any case, yeah, I forgot to link my class. I did mention in that video that I would link the class, but I'm kind of afraid to put any external links just because I don't want to get demonetized. I mean, I don't make a lot of money off of these YouTube videos, but any penny helps. So yeah, I'm teaching a Monday night portrait class in the Howard County Arts Council. It is 7 to 9 p.m. A live model 8-week class. And if you would like me to teach in your area and you think you can find a school that will, facilitate me traveling to go and teach workshops and things like that, yeah, let me know. That would be awesome. I would love to do that. And as far as other aspirations that I have, other than getting my work into galleries and things like that, I really want to teach at a school, like a university or an atelier. But then again, you kind of need, for a university, you need a MFA usually, Master's Fine Arts. And I only have a bachelor's that's not even in math. I mean, it's not even in art. My bachelor's is in math. Just remember, I was a math tutor for a while. But anyway, story time is now up. I have painted in the background. So let's get back to serious painting. Now, with this value, I think I can actually move this up, the shape that is. So just raw umber, ivory black, no medium, Okay, still not using any medium. I'm just reiterating myself just in case, you know, you skipped, you're skipping through the video and you're wondering if I added any medium yet. Nope, no medium, just paint. And be careful not to chop off the ear. And it's still glaring pretty bad, so I'm sorry about that, about the glare. So my brush, which brush did I use? Where's my brush? Okay, lost the brush again. Whatever, let's suppose it's this one. So yeah, I'm gonna move the hat down a little bit. And I'm gonna keep the edge really soft for the hat. It looks like it's really soft. The edge is really soft in the Zorn painting, so let's do that. Now a little bit lighter for the reflected light here. It would look almost unnatural if there wasn't a reflected light under his chin, just because, you know, there's something so bright underneath him. Okay, alright, so now that I dropped my brush, I'm going to go ahead and mix this darker red. So alizarin and what was already on the brush. Here we have that dark red shape. Okay, alright, so a little bit of cadmium red, mix right onto whatever this was. I think it was the green that we mixed up before, which is actually perfect because I don't want the red to be too bright. Is this a tie? Interesting. Interesting shape for the tie. A little bit more of the red. Now we're going to put in the light plane. I guess on his palette this red must have been vermilion. For us it's cadmium red. Okay, now I'm going to switch brushes really quickly here, just so I don't have to clean this brush. Put this shape into here. Okay, all right. So with the this was the drawing brush. So a little bit of the red. Yeah, the Winsor Artisan Cadmium Red's really nice. I do like this red. And over here. Single brush stroke time. Looks like there's a little shadow underneath of that. I'm going to switch brushes for that. A little itsy bitsy shadow underneath. Now for the color that I really need and don't have, the green. So we're going to remix. So ultra yellow ochre to create an ultra ochre. A little bit more yellow ochre. It's not quite that bright, but oh well, it'll have to do. Now a different brush, different brush, different brush. Do I have another brush? Yes, I don't. Okay, never mind. So I'm gonna just use this brush that I think this was for the hat. Is it? Yeah, it was for the hat. So using that brush, since this color is relatively cool, so let's go ahead and put this shape into here. Not quite as saturated. It's not as saturated as the photo reference, but it'll have to do for that. So now with the light brush, I'm just going to move this shape down towards here. Careful not to smear the red. Okay. And now there's some kind of dark thing going on back here. I don't know if that's like the fold of the drapery, but we're gonna paint that in there. And we're gonna leave the tone of the canvas to show through there. A little bit more of the red. Gonna make this a little bit darker underneath the ear. Probably overdid that. It's a little better. Now for the other eye, here's the brush that I used for the sclera. We're just going to make it a little bit darker. Or should I say a lot darker. I'm going to put this light plane, the sclera, right here. Alright, I'm going to sit back. So I guess it's just a few more things that I want to do, and then I'll call it. So with the same brush that I used for the red there, I'm going to raise the value, make it a little cooler. I'm going to put in some transitioning tones. Meaning one plane is transitioning into another plane, so this is therefore a transitioning plane. So the nose is a little too curved there. Alright, so now with a different brush, you get the shape of the nose. Now after sitting back, I noticed that I forgot the top of his eye. That reflected light is such a big part of this painting, so I'm gonna push it a little bit. Gonna switch brushes. Okay, alright, so now after sitting back again, I see that the nose could have a little more structure, so let's get a darker value. Didn't I say that the color becomes intuitive? I didn't even have to think about it. I knew that this value was about what I wanted, so I just went right for it for this side plane. So trust me, you'll get there to the point where the mixing just becomes intuitive. Just takes time. So now I'm going to go ahead and put another brush stroke here. Okay, so I can push the this plane a little bit darker. Remember, this was, I think, the first plane where I started adding color, so I guess it needs some retouching. Now I'm going to sit back again. And I think we're almost there. I don't really see much else that I want to change. I have to kind of think about it. I can push this shadow a little darker. And remember, this is not a master copy, it is a master study. It is a learning exercise of which you study the master's work and you have a painting as an end result. I have no idea how many of these I've done at this point. It's kind of nice not to have to, you know, like hunt for photo references. There's plenty more to look for. In terms of the master studies, I find that it's also helping me a lot. I found that at least I think that my work has improved since I started doing these master studies. You know, and this is kind of the approach also that I've had with my studio paintings, my larger paintings. Though, of course, I'm much slower with my own studio work. But this is kind of the way I approach it. I haven't done an underpainting in a while, so it's just kind of the way I have been doing things. But you know me, I'm kind of an explorer of technique. Though one major difference with my studio work is that I pretty much the first session or the first layer that goes onto the studio painting is just the drawing, just the lines. But for a head study, something like this, it's not as, I don't think it's as necessary. Okay, so it looks like the contour over here is a little bit off. Now if I can just find the brush that I used for the background, I guess it's this one, I don't know, whatever. So the raw umber, let's just push this up. Yeah, and even the mustache is much closer to the edge, so I do have to push this back a little bit. Whoops. I'm going to get a different brush now. Some of this red into some of this burnt sienna mixture. I'm going to have to adjust this shape over here. So, same brush, different value. Just pushing the corner here darker, just to have a little more contrast. I do think that the shirt can go down. So we'll push that down a little bit. And though it's kind of difficult to see because of the glare, I do have to push this down. Let's put a little more ultra. Okay, all right. In the painting itself, I can't really tell what's going on here. So this also applies to when working from life, okay? If an area is a little bit, difficult to read, if you don't know what's going on in a certain area, paint it that way. It sounds kind of contradictory, but if something seems a little bit difficult to decipher, you don't have to force it. Sometimes that's just nature's way of telling you, keep it simple. Keep it a painting. Don't make it into like a photorealistic thing. You can if you want to, if that's your style. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just pushing the hat further to the left. So now I'm going to get the clean and dry synthetic. I'm going to soften over here. When in doubt, blur it out. Since I didn't really know, I can't tell what's going on there. I know that it's dark and the edge is soft, so that's what I'm doing. Applying a dark and soft edge. This edge is going to have to soften a little bit. And while we're at it, we're going to soften over here too. We're even going to soften over here. And again, I'm sorry about all the glare, but that's also kind of the result of the camera being front and center. Oh dear, the autofocus is on. Sorry about that. If the autofocus was bothering you, I just put it on manual focus. But anyway, yeah, it will glare a little bit with the camera front and center. And if you're wondering how I'm painting like this with the camera front and center, my head is like literally behind the camera. The camera is like, at my chin, kind of like chin level. So I can kind of see above the camera. Now, you don't want to over soften, okay? You want a nice balance between sharp edge and soft edge, okay? So to make it a little bit more, I don't know, harmonious, you want to contrast your softer edges, like over here, with your sharper edges, like the ones over here. I think the background could get a little bit darker, but nah, I don't think I'm going to. I don't think you want to hear story time again, do you? So let's just push this shape up. Okay, with the flesh tone brush, gonna make this a little bit warmer for the chin. Lighter up here. I'm going to revisit the mustache. All right, so we're pushing that dark a little bit. Now this angle, though it was neat when we first put it in, I think, now it's time to adjust the shadow shape a little bit. And while we're at it, we're going to paint in the dark accent for the nostril. While we have that, we can push the dark for the iris a little bit. Let's give them a little more character. I'm going to darken over here. I did say I would be a little more quiet when in focus, so I'm probably going to be very quiet. Looks like some of the red is reflecting from here. I will say, probably shouldn't ask this, but oh well. If you know any galleries, you want to help me out, you know, any galleries that would, you know, give me like a one-man show or something. I have a lot of paintings that that are ready for exhibit. And again, you can see them on my Instagram. I do have to update my website. I've definitely been getting to work ever since I switched to the, you know, 2 uploads a week. Pretty much all day, every day, at work in the studio. Just hope I can have a show somewhere, sometime. have to move the highlight. Let me get a different brush. Whoops. There we go. Clean brush. Alright, so I think that ought to do it. I don't know, there might be a few last minute changes that I'll make. You know, such as softening a little bit over here and over here. But anyway, I think that should be about good. So that being said, I really hope that today's episode helps you out. I always forget to soften the edges and things like that. So in any case, I really do hope that this paint along helps you out. Again, remember I upload videos every Wednesday morning and every Saturday. At the end of today's episode, I'm going to be reading out the new patron shoutouts, okay? So let me just do all my usual outro stuff. If you would like to support this channel even more, I have a Patreon account. There is a link in the description box down below. If you would like to take a class with me, I am teaching the Monday night portrait class that I mentioned earlier. Always remember, in a world that can be so negative, be the spark that ignites positivity among all of us. And it can really just start by putting on a smile, just being happy. You know, every day that you can be in the studio, every day you can paint, is a day that you can learn and have fun. And I think that's about it with the softening, so. Alright. I wish you the best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you again on the next episode. And it's now time for our new patron shoutouts. So thank you so much, Mark Paul. I hope that I can pronounce your name correctly. Thank you so much, Mark Paul, for supporting my YouTube channel via the Patreon account. It really helps me out so much. And thank you so much to Ponyata Lamon. I'm sorry if I cannot pronounce your name properly. You know, I'm really terrible at pronouncing names, but thank you so much for supporting me on my Patreon account. It really does help me out so much. Again, I am truly and eternally grateful. Thank you for all of your support. I wish you the best in all of your artwork, and I'll be back again with our next episode on Wednesday.